Hey, welcome back to Telemedicine Talks, everybody. I am super stoked with this episode. We have a bunch of guests here, and we're going to talk to physician assistants. Yeah, I've worked a lot of telemedicine platforms, and I think this is an untapped resource and untapped market. And it's awesome to see a bunch of y'all here. And I can't wait to hear your stories, to hear your journeys, and what you're looking forward to. So let's start with just introductions.
I'm Ashlyn Smith. I'm an endocrine PA based out of Arizona. I've been practicing for 15 years now, really passionate about all of general endocrinology and applying that in a whole person with a whole person focus. So, really looking at all aspects of their healthcare, and recently got certified in lifestyle medicine and board certified in advanced diabetes management. So, really trying to see how I can best serve folks with endocrinopathies in a whole person perspective. And that is what led me to my business, which I'm sure we'll get
Yeah,
into.
welcome back too. So it's nice to have
Thank
you back on the
you.
show.
Thanks for having me back.
All right.
So I'm Christina Davis. I'm a PA here in Florida Panhandle. And here I do currently developmental behavioral pediatrics. I started off in primary care, pediatrics mainly, saw a lot of behavioral cases. So that's when I sought out further training in DBP, developmental behavioral pediatrics, and also functional medicine, because I felt like that was a big component to that too. And that's how I led into what I do today.
Oh, pediatrician. That's like down to my heart. I'm a general pediatrician first and foremost. That went to the dark side to the ER.
Okay.
So I love seeing peds. All right.
Okay, I am Savannah Elgins. I'm a PA. This is my 50-50 business partner.
I am Katie Wakeland. I am a nurse practitioner, actually, so I'm the odd man out.
And traditionally, I have an endocrinology background. That's where Katie and I both met. I have type 1 diabetes. I've had it for over 20 years. And so I decided to pursue the love of many decades of learning with type 1. I did endocrinology, and then that kind of led us to where we are today.
Yeah. And I'm a nurse practitioner, and we worked together in an endocrine clinic. And I am also a type 1 diabetic, so we bonded over that and decided that, we needed some extra subspecialty care for our type 1 patients. And that's what put our brains together and led us to where we are.
That's amazing. Gosh, kudos to you. I'm going to bring this back to a story. The way that I learned how to manage diabetes in the pediatric clinic was through a type 1 diabetic named Javon Brown. He was a 5-year-old that taught me how to manage his own medications and his own insulin pump. When I was doing rounds, Javon would be like, hey, here's how to use my pump. And to this day, I credit Javon as who taught me the most on how to manage diabetes. That's amazing.
Yeah, we love it.
Love it.
So welcome. Thank you for taking your time and y'all being here. It's amazing to see. We see a lot of physicians, nurse practitioners as well, but we don't see a lot of PAs doing telemedicine. And I'm going to go off on a tangent. Two of my best buddies and the people that taught me the most in military medicine were the PAs that supposedly worked under me, but really I worked under them and they taught me everything I knew about military medicine. And, we hold a close bond now. And I've been trying to break them into the telemedicine space. And it's been difficult. It hasn't been there. The structure hasn't been there. I guess first question is, what was your thoughts into getting into this space? And how did you break into this space? And what kind of speed bumps did you all run into in getting there?
So this is something, in you being a general pediatrician, I'm sure you know, like, how can she do DBP from home in a sense? So I do hybrid. Most of it is telemed. I say 75% to 25% either in the home or in an office located near the child. But my thing was, for the Florida Panhandle, there was no resources or anybody practicing within this specialty. And I found this to be true throughout the entire US for the most part. It's very few pediatricians compared to other specialties, and then very few specialized within DBP. That was my two biggest things that started my mission. How do I take care of my Florida Panhandle families? But then also, how do I educate and expand this throughout the US and be able to help other people? So I have the clinical part and the education portion. So that's my two biggest things. I would say the biggest hurdles is working with insurance. That is one of the biggest things. And just getting patients and families to trust that part of, hey, I may not be taking insurance, but this is because I want to provide the best care to you all. I don't want it to be limited based off of the stipulations of what they say. I want to be able to give everybody the exact same care and tailor it to what the families need.
Got it. Interesting. So you're strictly cash pay then, just out of pocket pay.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's the easy answer. And a lot of these companies started direct pay, direct to consumer, right? It's a headache, I know, dealing with the payers.
Yes.
I had a similar experience. I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but really what I was seeing outside of my personal journey into entrepreneurship, just the telemedicine side of it. I was working in general endocrine for over a decade, and people were driving hours and hours to come do their 15-minute appointment with me. And it just started to become really obvious that people were missing appointments, or they were putting off appointments because it was such a hassle, or somebody forgot about their appointment, and there were these gaps in their care. And just really realizing that there are whole sections of Arizona that don't have endocrinologists. So they have the choice to either forego specialty care or really travel a long way. And I think COVID really changed a lot of our perspectives on what telemedicine could really look like. And now telemedicine probably isn't for every specialty. If you're in surgery, it may not be the best option for you, but something like endocrinology, we can do a lot of it. A lot of it's lab reviews, diabetes tech report reviews. There's so much that we can do remotely. And through COVID and post-COVID, I was really seeing a couple of really cool things that I could see into the person's home and their normal life, and you get a different perspective than how they act and how they present in a clinic. And sometimes it's just they're more relaxed, but it's like, oh, I see their living environment, and that helps put their priorities, their situation in context. And it also just helps with keeping appointments. I can't tell you how many times before I was fully telemed, I would have somebody who totally forgot their appointment, panic called the office. I was like, we'll just do a video. It's okay. Like, we'll still get that care, we'll still be able to talk. So I think it was a combination of just lessons learned throughout the pandemic, and then just seeing the care gaps. And it really didn't need to be that way. For some people, telemedicine is not their cup of tea, but for a lot of people, they are really open to it because of that flexibility. I have probably 5 other stories I could share like that, including somebody I just started seeing totally telehealth change because his provider was making him come into the office every time he needed a pump adjustment. And he's like, I'm taking so much time off of work, and he's making me come in, every couple of weeks to change things. And I said, well, why don't we do it over telemedicine? I see him over his lunch break, and we get things taken care of. So for certain people, it really makes a lot of sense.
Kind of to piggyback on that, the original system was broken. Like, it wasn't working, which is why we decided to get out. And so specifically, we didn't feel like our type 1s were getting the care that they needed in 15 minutes, because that is the amount of time it takes to download the pump, and then the visit's over. That's it. That's all we got. I'll call you later for your adjustments. And then I have, multiple people backing up. And so we were limited strictly by time. Katie and I were very, very big proponents of, we want you to manage this the best way that you feel possible. So we wanted to make sure that we were incorporating all the latest and greatest technology and whatever the patient felt comfortable with doing. We saw a lot of limitations with people outside of us that would pick one insulin pump system and then just kind of stick to that because that's what they were comfortable with. And that's what they felt comfortable with prescribing. And so we just felt like our type 1s deserved more. There was a little bit that I went to social media. It was like my first time really niching down on like a type 1 community and like looking and observing and listening. And for as much effort that we were putting in trying to do the best for our patients in general, all endocrine patients, the type 1s in particular had so many negative things to say about their endos, and it hurt my heart quite a bit. I'm trying really hard to do everything that as a type 1 myself, I would want to give to you. And it's not my type 1s that were complaining, to be clear. It's just like nationwide, everyone was upset by the lack of appointments and limited availability, driving forever, 4 months booked out. Something comes up with the physician or the NP or the PA, and then they're moved another 3 months. They can't get their prescriptions. Insulin is a requirement. And we were just like, you know what? If we took insurance out of this, what could we do? What could we do for our patients? How much time could we give them? Could we willingly give somebody over an hour who's just diagnosed with type 1 as an adult? Because the pediatric system obviously has a lot more things in place that for better education, but our type 1 adults, it just wasn't working. And so can we give them more than an hour to understand this life-changing disease that you have? Can we tell you from a personal experience, we are living with this, we had babies with this, we went to college with this, like we can be their guidance from a healthcare perspective and a personal perspective, but we couldn't do that inside of the traditional roles of the healthcare system.
Yeah, and it's a common theme, right? All of you guys kind of related. It's just, hey, the system's broken, right? The system wasn't benefiting patients. It was not benefiting the providers. And, you saw an opening and you're like, hey, I could do something better. We could do something better. And another common theme is insurance is making this very hard. And it's sounding like cash pay is kind of the easy answer. And we could go on a whole nother talk about that. But other questions, and actually, this is Katie and Savannah. Maybe you could shed light on it. I kind of mentioned it before. A lot of NPs are in the telehealth space, but not a lot of PAs, right? Why? And of course, y'all can answer, but I have an NP and a PA right there. Why do you think there's a discrepancy in that? What about being a PA makes it a little bit harder to break into the space and really own your own company and start things?
Well, it starts at the top. So laws, corporate practice of medicine is the big one. And when you're talking about nursing and medicine, they're completely different services, right?
Yeah.
So we live under different boards, whereas a nurse practitioner, according to the Texas Nursing Board, I never practice medicine. I've never practiced medicine. I practice advanced nursing. And so that's where the two differ. And in fact, as far as business ownership, I can be in my scope of practice and practice advanced nursing and own a business that practices advanced nursing under that scope. But as a PA who services under the Texas Medical Board, who does practice medicine under the supervision of a physician, the rules and regulations get way more sticky when it comes to owning a practice. Not impossible, but very sticky.
So nuanced.
Yes.
And I think you guys all have 3 different business structures, right? I think you guys were all covered under the different umbrella because, like, Savannah, you're like PC-MSO.
Yes.
Ashlyn, you have a different structure. And then Christina is not subject to corporate practice of medicine.
Now,
I have a PLLC.
Yeah.
do you have to have a physician overseer, like physician supervisor right? And trying to convince the medical board that PAs now could own their own company, I bet is way harder than trying to convince the nursing board.
It's coming. It's like state by state coming. In Texas, physician assistants can own 49%.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
do not own majority. And so, but every state is a little bit different. Texas was one that I don't think is going to budge. I hope it does, but I don't think it's budgeting anytime soon.
It's Texas.
Yeah, I was lucky. I think Arizona is a little more flexible in those situations. So that's why I can own my PLLC, but I have to have, I think technically she's a medical director. So there are 2 different hats. There's the collaborating physician hat, like somebody that I practice with, and so I meet with her, but she's a collaborating versus a supervising. That's another nuance. So there's the collaborating physician hat, and then there's kind of the medical director hat, which is that corporate practice of medicine. So in that piece, she owns 51% of that piece, and it's so confusing the way it's all divvied out. So I own my own PLLC, but I have 51% ownership of the corporate practice of medicine for the physician.
So do you have the PLLC that you own, but then you work with your medical director or the physician that has their own company structure and then you co-own? Like, how does that work?
No, it's all house under, it's like a separate
Yeah.
contract,
Okay.
essentially, a separate contract to be the medical director. So yeah, it's different than the PC-MSO structure, which is good because that makes my brain hurt.
It makes my brain hurt too.
Yeah, literally, poor Katie. She thinks of something in the middle of the night, and it's like, oh no,
Yeah.
did we do this right? Yeah. We always do.
Yeah.
It's just terrifying.
So in your structure, you own a percentage and the doctor owns a percentage.
So
Oh,
we
no.
own an LLC, which is a management company. And
Got it.
so physician owns the business full out 100%.
PLLC.
PLLC. And then you have contracts of those two businesses that tie them together. We can work for the medical company or under the medical
Got it.
company and own the management organization, but they have to be separate entities, period and story, according
And-
to Texas.
And is your structure PC-MSO then too?
Correct.
It is. Okay. And Ashlyn, sorry, to clarify, I know a PC-MSO structure better than your structure. So then you just co-own basically the company together with your physician, right?
In a matter of speaking, like I created
Yeah.
it my own. So she didn't have to be there for creating it for the business,
Correct.
for the CPOM part. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then Christina, you're under a PC-MSO.
No, I'm not.
Oh my
So
gosh,
here
okay.
in Florida, yes, all three different. I would say mine is a little simpler
Uh-huh.
than all of theirs. So here in Florida, we can have an LLC.
Okay.
You don't have to have a PLLC. So I have an LLC, and then I just have to make the supervising physician or have somebody separate as the medical director. So that's really the only thing, having a supervising physician and a medical director.
But you could own the business.
Mhm.
I thought Florida was CPOM.
Mhm.
No? No, it isn't. Okay, that's where my confusion was, because I know a lot of people create PCs in the PC-MSO structure in Florida to be their mega PC.
But they're not clinicians. So that's the difference there.
Got it.
Christina's
Okay.
a clinician.
So I think
Okay.
probably the biggest takeoff message here is know your
Yeah,
state laws.
right.
Yes.
Definitely. But the other bottom line message here is it's doable, right? It's doable. You know, it may not be as straightforward as, let's say, Florida, with the lack of laws in Florida, but it's doable, right? And I think that's a resounding message too, that for the PAs out there, you know, I've been talking to my buddies too, and they're like, how do we do it? I don't think we can do it. You know, it can be done. It's just sometimes a little bit more finagling wherever you are.
Yeah, the biggest thing to think about is like if you can do it in a state and you could have a collaborating physician. Supervising physicians a little bit hard. There's a lot of states that still require like almost like you're on site with the doctor. So like South Carolina PAs, I feel so bad. They have to work with their supervising physician for 6 months, at least 40 hours a week in the same location before they can own their own practice. So the only PAs that are really ever going to be able to do that are PAs who are working with a doctor in the ER, maybe, or in clinic, and there's some weird non-compete or no non-compete. You know what I mean? So those are some of the barriers I think that come up. But you know, I think the majority of the states are similar to how you guys have it structured, where there is the flexibility in the room to be able to do it.
Now, go back to what you just said, because there's a little nuance maybe I need a little clarification on. Collaborating physician, I can't say physician, doctor, versus supervising doctor. Two different terms, right? Can somebody educate me? I use that interchangeably when I work brick and mortar with my PAs, but yeah, what's the difference? And why does it matter?
Yeah, it's an important one. And again, kind of varies by state what their requirements are for it. So in Arizona, if you've been practicing for 8,000 hours, you can apply to get certification for a collaboration agreement. So it's a whole process to get attestations from the physicians you've worked for and for how many hours and everything. But once you do that, then it takes it from, for Arizona at least, the supervising physician dictates your scope. So let's say that I have worked in endocrinology all along, but they just see, I don't know, gestational diabetes. I'm going to say something really specific. Well, now I can only see what they see. And if I previously saw adults and pediatrics, and now they only see adults, I can only see adults. So it's really restrictive. There's a lot more oversight. The agreement's a lot stricter versus collaboration. I can work under my own scope. So my own experience and my collaborating physician could be in that same arena, but doesn't have to be. And there's less in terms of like co-signing and the percentage of chart review and that sort of thing, because you've established that you've been a clinician doing her job for a long time. Like we can stand on our own 2 feet because we've shown that experience. I think that is a huge step in the right direction, because almost every PA that you'll talk to, we think of practicing medicine in a team because that's what healthcare is. None of us operate in a vacuum. Even if you're the only person in your practice, you have other specialties, you have your primary care team, mental health team, diabetes educators, you have so many people that you're working with. So we think about it as a team and everybody working to the fullest potential within that team. We want everybody at the top of their scope, everybody giving their best to patients.
Thank you for that.
Sorry, a little bit of a soapbox issue for me.
No. And it's good education because people like me, again, use it interchangeably, but it's, especially on my end, physicians wanting to partner up with PAs, they need to understand the distinction, right? And they just, so the better they're getting, I think. Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
To make it more confusing, I know
Here
it's
in
a little
Florida.
different,
Yeah.
So the terms still stand the same, like supervising physician versus collaboration. But here we still fall up under supervising physician. So like Ashlyn was saying, as far as the scope, like it determines my scope of what I can do. However, about 2-3 years ago, maybe they tried to change it to collaboration within the supervising physician part of it. So it made it to where now, like through contract, you have to lay out your scope, but it can be other things as long as they would be eligible to do those things. Yeah, so like a pediatrician that would be eligible to, I'm using this as an example because this is what I do within my practice, like I do gut health. A pediatrician that is able to order those gut health labs, although they may not be doing it on a regular, if it's something they can do, then here in Florida, they can write it into my scope of practice and I am able to do that.
Got it. That's interesting. And do you have any questions by chance?
You're thinking about this as you're probably supervising in, all these supervising relationships, and you're like,
yeah, no, it's different though, because I've never really had to think about the distinction, right? Again, in my ignorance, I was using the terms interchangeably, collaborating, supervision, but it makes a huge difference, especially. And thinking about, I'm being a little selfish. I want to hook up my buddies, and I'm trying to figure out ways they could break in. And so this is helpful knowing the different ways to do so and kind of the terminology to do so. I'm going to tell them to listen to this. So Brian and Ruli, if you're listening to this, yeah, these questions are for you. So one other question I had too is flipping the question a bit is doctors, physicians, we could get licensed all 51 states, not easily, but available, right? I could hire somebody and boom, 6 months later. Is that possible in the PA world? Or is there, because in some states, NPs can't do that, right? There's not a 51 licensed NP out there. I know there's some states they just can't do for some reason or other. I'm blanking on why. But is that possible to do in the PA world?
I mean, you can license in any state that you want to license as long as you're following that board's instructions to do that. Whether or not you can open a practice, own a business in that state's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah. And there's some states where I think there's some scope limitations in some strict states where the NPs, either there's supervisory kind of requirements where it's just not scalable. So a lot of platforms don't use NPs in certain states.
You probably can't prescribe. There's always going to be some little limitation. Every state's different. Like there are actually some states that are like really, really, really PA friendly, where it basically says like your scope is actually the same as a doctor. So like there are some of those. It heavily depends. So the big thing is you just need to understand like what your rules are. But I mean, I've probably told you guys this, like this is actually the easy part. So everyone thinks this is like the hardest part of starting a private practice. This is the one that everybody focuses on because it's so tangible. All people in clinical world think of like, there's this step-by-step process. And at the very end of this, I'm going to have a business and it's going to be great. And so it's actually the easy part to get this done. Once you crack the code, most people just don't speak this language. The harder part is, to their point, figuring out their why and getting over that mental hurdle to just like, I'm doing this because, oh my gosh, I cannot work for this clinic anymore. Figuring out the website, flexing these skills that you never thought you'd have to try and giving it a shot. Before you joined, Leo, we were saying Christina's going to teach us TikTok because none of us can figure it out. Right?
Oh gosh.
These are all the things that it's, as much as I joke, because I always try to keep things light and fun, but to me, it's like, it's this whole different journey that you guys are on. It's this whole process of learning and trying, and it's kind of fun, you know, if you take like the scary part of like, how do I find patience out of the brain?
Well, in my experience, figuring out my why is really what motivates me. Because, in my opinion, I don't think this journey would be successful without having that true north mission, because it's scary. Like, you have to take some leaps and learn things you have never been taught at all, and try things and get feedback that maybe is negative and pivot and figure it out. So, in my mind, figuring out your why and what you're going to serve is probably the most important thing before anything else, because that is what will remind you when you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning panicking about something. Remember, this is why I'm doing this. And there's a bigger mission here. And it's okay. It'll take time, but it's worth it.
And a startup is only a startup one time. We only have to do this part one time for the most part, unless you want to expand. And so that's what really is motivating me, that if I figure all of this out now and we can get the hang of it, the rest is easy. Really, the rest I know how to do. The rest I spent 6 years of school in.
I mentor a lot of PA students, and I tell them all the time, write your mission statement. Like, not the one, like the personal statement that you had to go into school. I'm like, write your mission statement. And as long as you're like, my mission statement for my company now is still what I did before. Like, it's changed. It's based off of my knowledge, but it's still the same baseline. And I think if you know your mission, just kind of like piggyback off of what Ashlyn said, then that's going to be able to get you through where you're at now and take you to continually grow on your journey.
And you'll make mistakes, and that's okay.
Totally okay.
Yeah. We've talked about this before, right?
Okay.
You know, in the medical community, it's just, we're trained not to make mistakes, right? We're expected to bat 100%, right?
Yeah.
You make a mistake in the medical community, well, maybe you lose somebody. And it's ingrained in us to plan so you don't make those mistakes. But now in the business world, you know, it's totally different, right? It's expected to make mistakes. This whole, oh, you know, we could fix it later, or we're going to try this out. If it doesn't work, then okay, then we'll pivot. It's just so strange, at least to me. It's just like, it's one of the biggest things that I had to get over. It just felt super unnatural and super uncomfortable. So, no, I totally agree.
Yeah, that's been an interesting kind of observation for me, like working with so many clinicians, is like, I'm the risk adverse one, right? Like compliance, and I'm telling you guys to take some risks and to, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, it is interesting though, because I would be curious kind of like how you guys each have seen yourself evolve over the last 6 or so months, like from the shift of how you were as a clinician, but now moving into the entrepreneurial mindset.
I'm trying. Katie's going to put me in my place right now. I am trying to be actually more laid back about things. It's very challenging, but I came into this, like in the clinic world, I wanted things to run my way, like the schedule, the way that I saw patients, everything. And during this transition, I have made an effort to take a step back and be a little bit more flexible and just kind of let things fall into place. There are certain things that I can't let go of, but for the most part, like I'm doing my best at turn the clinic brain off of it must go this way and be more open-minded as to, you know what, that's not a battle that, like, whatever happens with that, I'm okay with that, because we have so many more battles now than we did when we were just seeing 15, 18 patients a day. Like, that was a set number. And you can encounter so many more different nuanced problems. So you can't fight the way that you used to. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah. It's just you learn and you pivot, and that's all you have to do. And I didn't go to school for this. I was not in business school. Interesting story. My husband went to business school, and after he graduated, I told him, we're not starting a business. We're not going to do this. And then here I am 7 years later.
It's in your blood.
Yeah, he's a little heated about that. But all in all, it's practice and finding the support from people that you can trust on the things that you don't know, because you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's the first wall that you come into when you step into this world is, oh my gosh, this is not what I anticipated. So find those people that you can trust and you can get advice from, and it saves you a lot of sleep time.
Yeah. From my perspective, I think the moment I stopped thinking that there was a destination, oh, I'm going to do this thing and then the business is going to be here. I'm going to do this other thing. And then the business is going to be launched and I'm going to find peace. And when I finally took a step back and realized this is life, like life is actually me, that I get to do this. And like, oh my gosh, I get to try this thing and learn this different thing. And so it was almost like I just approach every day as like some baby steps forward versus thinking about like racing to get there. It like automatically just like kind of makes you feel like you can like have some stuff off of your shoulders a little bit. But I think that also comes with like, I've made 47,000 mistakes and pivots and adjustments at this time.
I think the biggest thing for myself, since we talked about TikTok earlier, I was always I've been a private person and kind of put in things. I'm like, I put out there what I want to put out there. Like even on my personal social media accounts, that's always how I've been. But being on this entrepreneur side, I'm like, okay, you have this knowledge. You're saying you want it to go out across the US. Put it out there. Going on a video, and I'm like, okay, let me put myself out here. Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. But even that was a struggle for me at times. So I'm like, okay, just go do it. You don't have to be perfect in that sense. So that's where I would say I have evolved and being more comfortable within those spaces. I don't know why. I can go give a lecture, but going up on camera for things like this, and I'm like, I kind of freeze up. Am I awkward? Am I this? But it's just about getting the information out there.
Imposter syndrome is real, right? Like, still struggle with it, but especially the, medical provider entrepreneur kind of role, right? Like you said, where was that curriculum when we were going through school? There wasn't, right? So stepping into this role, I think we naturally are like, I don't know if I'm made for this. Who's going to listen to me? Like, what authority do I have to do this? Because, well, I'm just medical. I use that a lot as an excuse too. But, I'm just medical. But no, you're more than that, right? Going through the medical training you've had, you've realized that, you're pretty damn smart and we could adapt, right? And learn things on the fly and faster. We were trained to do that. We were trained to actually pivot. It's just a matter of just believing that we can. So
no offense, Katie, but one of the reasons why I really wanted to partner with PAs and why I really enjoy working with so many PAs is because PAs are just so much more independent than most other clinicians. Like, I'm not a PA. I don't know what you guys did in school and how your training was, but something in each of you is like, I'm going to take the reins of this and I just need somebody to teach me and like show me. And so it's been, for me, part of the fun part of working with PAs is, one, you guys make my life really easy, but also like, there's honestly nobody out there that really wants to help you. NPs have some really good lobbyists and are really pushing forward on the business education and how to do all this. I mean, to me, I can't help but think it's like some weird, we don't want PAs to go do this because it kind of conflicts with physicians and the whole thing.
Well, I think it goes back to how it was structured in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. I think the different boards makes a big difference. Because when I was talking to my buddies, it's like, hey, why don't you guys just do this? They're like, well, your medical board won't allow me to. Right. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. You're under the board of medicine, where you have these decision leaders that historically are meant to control. And this is a generalization, but you get the idea. It's just, that's how it was structured. So breaking away from that structure. And I think we need to, because you mentioned it, the paucity of medical care out there necessitates the expansion of care.
Absolutely. I keep thinking about the imposter syndrome because that's such a very real thing. But I think the other side of that is I think I kind of had maybe the opposite experience that you had, Savannah. Like I went from feeling really powerless and not feeling like I wasn't doing good work and I had no say at all to now when I think about it, I'm like, I built my website. I created this business structure. I negotiated these contracts. I created my whole model and put everything together. And now that the patients are starting to pick up again, I have this renewed sense of fulfillment that I'm able to really practice medicine again and not under somebody else's priorities and not in a really broken system, but in a way that makes sense for me and my patients. So I probably work more now for each individual patient than I did before because I have that renewed passion and I feel like my cup is full again. And so I love that I have new skills. I'm going to keep learning new skills because I have a lot to learn, but that's really cool. I'm glad that we all did this on our own instead of hiring somebody and paying so much money just to have an end product. But now, we have all these badass skills. Like that is awesome.
And I want to add to that too. I wish that I saw more community like ours. But whenever I go online, there's like a group. I don't want to name the group, but there's a group. And whenever somebody asks a question anonymously, they ask, like, how are other people doing this? Why am I not finding the answers? Why is nobody coming forward? I just replied, not anonymously. I said, go check out IPAC. I don't even know how. Actually, it was Sermo and it was you, Ashlyn. You were posting on Sermo, and that's how I found out about IPAC, and that's how I went into the drawing. And to fall in a place where we were whispering, can we even do this? I don't know how we would do this. And you can probably do this. Can I do this? I don't know. Like we had no idea. And then I found IPAC, and I'm just grateful that this community like welcomed me and was like, hey, we can do this together. We can troubleshoot everything together. I think that's unique. And I am more than happy to welcome other people into this and share everything that we've learned. But I think whatever secrets are out there, people are like keeping them themselves. And I don't really know why.
That's the same thing that I noticed. And I know everybody else kind of knows my story in this. I tried to partner with pediatricians at first. I love the collaborative approach. That's why I became a PA. And I kind of had gave up because I would get to that point where they're like, oh, yes, let's go through with it and then fall back. So I had the vision. I'm like, let's do it. The community needs it. Everybody sees that the community needs it. Why are we stopping? Is it because I'm a PA? What's going on? And so I kind of had gave up in a sense. It wasn't long. It was maybe 5 days. And I found IPAC and I was like, let me just check this out. And it was the best thing that I could have ever done. This practice would not be open if it wasn't for me joining IPAC.
I'm going to ask the question, what is IPAC? And if people want to figure that out, how do they get there?
If you are looking for a PA community, that's what IPAC can be for you. If you're looking to be what I affectionately call a healthcare disruptor, somebody looking to shake things up a little bit, definitely the Independent PA Collective is for you.
Got it. The Independent PA, or it's the independentpac.com, right? All one word, right? I'm looking at the website. I think that's...
We're at the website. I don't
Yeah.
remember what the website is.
Independentpac.com. Just FYI, your website. No, but I'm going to exclamation point the whole idea of the community. I think it's huge. It's important. And there's a lot of communities out there, but finding community which share your values and cheer yourselves on and just further the group is key. So I'm super stoked to know that there's a community out there that the PAs can go and be a part of and really just go through the struggle with each other, but also bounce ideas off each other. And why think with one brain when you can think with a collective brain, right? So
yeah. Well, no, and to Savannah's point, I think with PAs, one of the reasons why people don't want to share information is they pay a lot of money for it. So like the only way they're getting this, and one of the reasons why I've been so passionate about the PA side and how Ashlyn and I launched IPAC together was because I was talking to other PAs and they were paying $15,000, $20,000 for this. I mean, if I pay $15,000 and $20,000, I don't want to give my secrets away. So it's this interesting kind of dynamic where nobody wanted to share the information that honestly, now that you guys have been through it, it's tedious, but it's possible. It's not
Mhm.
$20,000 worth, but you were able to do it. And so I think part of the problem is that, and again, that's why we started this, where it should not cost an arm and a leg for you all to be able to even figure out if you can start a business, and
Well,
for you to
and
feel stuck in a crappy environment and system when we need providers. We should be empowering you guys, not making it hard for you to provide care. We are so desperately need ya.
and the information is not proprietary. It's funny that way. It's great to have a community so you could pull the information faster, quicker. And again, use the collective versus not, but right. So it's always been kind of a funny thing to me when like it becomes super, super exclusive, right? And becomes prohibitory.
The thing that I love is that like Phoebe's been really amazing at bringing different experts in, so you're getting a lot of different perspectives on things. So really kind of no matter where we were in our journey, there was something for each of us. And it's been really cool to get everybody's, different perspectives, these different mentors and experts out there. And then of course, Phoebe's expertise on her own. It's a place where you can come and ask the really weird questions. Go ahead, ask the tough questions. I don't remember which week it was, but Christina, I remember I was having a really hard time, and I remember you were saying, I was just where you were just a little while ago, and just hang on because it will get better. And heck yeah, it did get better. And that community of knowing, like, you get it. And I can come to this place and say, this is a really hard time throughout this process, and get that encouragement. Not just, yeah, sure, you can do it, but like somebody who really understands. I don't know another place where PAs can get that. That's invaluable. So come, ask your weird questions, ask your crazy questions, come be a part of the community. Like we're here for it.
We're also all friends now. So part of it, we talk not PA stuff, we talk random stuff. Like we're all humans at the end of the day too. And it's like, I think the really cool thing is the thing I love seeing in, our little space is like, yeah, we're sharing different ideas. Like, hey, like I saw this really cool Instagram post. You should do something like this because this is in your scope and makes sense for your audience. Or have you listened to this podcast? I think you should listen to it, or go take this course. Like they share. There is no, this is my information or your information or secrets. I think my favorite session that we honestly did together, where it was like everybody just like brainstormed their pricing. And again, you have people offering the same kind of services. Like in a traditional setting, you'd be like, that's my competitor, I'm not sharing. And it's like, oh, that's your pricing. Okay, that's cool. What's the feedback you're getting? I mean, to me, like that's the beautiful part of what I said earlier. That's like the cool part of going through this whole journey, is like through this, you're going to try things, and it's hard enough to stay motivated because it's just so hard. But having people keep you, like to Ashlyn's point on Christina, you got this, you get through it, it'll get better. And it's interesting because honestly, every week we're getting new people join. So it's nice because you guys are like now like OGs, like the veterans. So you're coming out like, oh, we got it. But we're also starting to think about how we can expand it, right? Like we have a lot of people, and I don't want to speak for you, Ashlyn, but like Ashlyn does so much in the lifestyle medicine space that there's other PAs that are like, well, can you teach me? And it's like, well, maybe we can build a little community around Ashlyn, and Ashlyn could actually even go educate further. And it could just be like PAs supporting PAs.
Yes, love it. I love anything that we can give back to the community. I'm all for it. You know me, I love education. I've been doing that basically as long as I've been practicing. So. But yeah, that's the true. I got so much just from chatting with people in the community that they suddenly were saying, wait, how did you do that? What's the process? Can you tell me a little bit about it? How does that differ between this and this? And just learning from each other. And yeah, you never know what'll spark an idea.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, I'm all in with IPAC. So yeah.
We have fun, obviously.
So unfortunately, our time's coming kind of to an end. Last question. So you see little baby PAs out there. What's your number one kind of advice that you could give them to kind of just get them going, to get them to where you guys are at and get them going, basically?
In general or entrepreneurship?
Oh, this is an open question. Yeah.
Open.
Yeah. Either or, you decide.
Oh, I'm in education. So I feel like I give advice all
You
the
have
time.
all the babies.
You know what I will say? I will say to the, because this just kind of hits home right now. I missed you guys this week. We had the ice storm and it has been insanity here. My kids, for the fourth day in a row, did not go to school today. It was canceled. So just insanity. I feel like I'm back in my COVID days attempting to work with the crazy. So what I would say to all the students is all of the hardships you're going through right now in your courses are very applicable to clinic life, are very applicable to entrepreneur life. It is building to that point. If we get canceled for weather, guess what? You're going to have 55 patients canceled for weather, and it doesn't matter in what setting. And so I would just say that this incredibly tough point in your life, and whether you're in school or you are just new grad and you're figuring it all out, all these hardships are making you the PA that is you're going to look back and be so proud of every single milestone and hardship that you went through.
I would have two things to say. I already talked about the mission statement. Find why you do this, why you became a PA, what you're doing, and it will be able to take you through your journey no matter what you're doing. But then my second thing would be to find balance. No matter where you're at, where you're in school or you are just becoming a PA, because a lot of the times when you go from that transition, nobody prepares you to graduate and then get your first job. And so then you're just like, I'll take anything. And then you become just so engulfed in whatever you're doing at that time because you kind of will take anything, like I said. So being able to say, I still need this balance and knowing my worth within it.
And I think we all have a similar vein about finding your why. So I won't talk about that one again, but I think I'm going to give two pieces of advice as well. One is just a good general rule that no is a complete sentence. So when you're going through your professional life and everything, they're going to come up with situations that don't feel right, or, you need to put a boundary out. So being able to, especially unfortunately, females have a hard time with this, I think, but just being able to stand up and just say no. And when that pushback comes, understanding that it's okay to just say no. And the other piece of it, the one that kind of launched me into this whole journey, was a piece of advice that I heard, which was that you are only indispensable to your loved ones. And that made me really think about where my priorities were, and that I was pouring so much of myself into work who could replace me tomorrow. So really remembering where you're irreplaceable and keeping that as your priority and where you put your energy.
I like that one. I like that one especially.
Ooh, Leo, can I add one?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And I would say, and to all of you too, to everybody, we all have a really little voice in our head that sometimes does not say the nicest things. And so it's be kind to yourself and just remember to give yourself some grace. That's all.
I love it.
I tell my kids that every day. Like, you got to be kind and you got to give yourself grace. I wish more people did it.
Well, hey, thank you for taking your time. This is amazing. And I love seeing the community. Again, it's reach out, right? You all join the community. It sounds like you guys have something great. So it's refreshing to see. Yeah. And again, hey, thank you for listening. If you want to reach out to Phoebe and I, it's leo@telemedicinetalks.com, Phoebe@telemedicinetalks.com, or info@telemedicinetalks.com. And we'll see you again next time. Mahalo.